And let's start with the stimulus. That is the big news of the morning. And I woke up to these headlines this morning as the Senate adjourns through Labor Day without reaching a stimulus deal. And this is where things currently stand right now. Larry Kudlow going on television talking about how all of this has stalled. Let's listen to him, and doesn't think that there's going to be any movement unless maybe the Democrats want to bend over backwards once again.
I mean, right now the negotiations are stalled. We were asked by Speaker Pelosi, I think, to get our numbers up to $2 or $2.5 trillion. Secretary Mnuchin said no, because the president prefers a $1 trillion number. By the way, so does Mitch McConnell and the Republican caucus, Republican conference in the Senate. So I don't want to negotiate on the show, but I'm just saying we're not going to make a big commitment. This is even apart from the improving economic numbers. There are many, many things in this bill that have nothing to do with COVID, and that is very troubling to the president. Things, whatever your opinion is about voting by mail, or harvesting votes, or signing your voter card, or letting felons out of jail, or giving assistance to aliens, immigrants, whatever your view is on that, they have nothing to do with COVID. And we want this to be a much narrower, much more targeted bill. So the numbers and the shape of the bill and the contours has to all change. I don't want to speculate on it. I'm just saying, we just had a meeting with the president in the Oval Office, and, these things are what he wants.
There you go. So they're still complaining about liberal bloat inside of Nancy Pelosi's side of the bill. They want money for the post office right now, of course, because they know what President Trump is trying to do on the post office. We're going to deep dive that subject just in a few moments here. But the bottom line is they don't want to come up on their price. The Senate has now adjourned for the summer. There will be no votes. Now, it is possible that they could be called back if President Trump has some movement, is willing to negotiate on a price. But right now, they're gone. There are no stimulus checks. That's it. That's it. And Mitch McConnell took to the floor to get in some digs at Democrats again yesterday. Take a listen.
But if Democrats are playing hardball, their opponents aren't us Republicans. Not really. They're playing hardball against kids, workers, and vulnerable Americans who need help. They're playing hardball against our medical system.
Against our medical system. And so they think that this is where it's going to be held up because Democrats are drawing a line in the sand here, that they want frontline worker pay. They want state and local governments to be able to have assistance right now that are bleeding. And states across the country are bleeding, and they want that money to be in there. Now, they have shaved $1 trillion off their plan, and Republicans haven't budged on it. Larry Kudlow is basically saying that's the number. We're not moving off of that $1 trillion position. That's it. Well, that's not a negotiation, and if that's not going to move at all, then they're going home. They're done. They are officially adjourned, folks, until after Labor Day. So do not expect to see any stimulus checks anytime soon. Now, what about those executive orders, you might be asking, that President Trump signed? Well, troubling news on that front as well, because these executive orders, as you know, are a bit of a dog and pony show and have very little teeth. But even more than just being political theatrics, is this idea that these states cannot implement these unemployment benefits. A number of states have now come to the table, and I'm going to put up the map here of where these states are right now. They cannot come to the table. They said anyone in purple says they are not sure that they can implement the executive order, and Rhode Island was the latest to be added to this list. I mean, just take a look for a second at this map. Purple means these states. Look how many of them are red states, by the way. This is not political. I mean, Pennsylvania says they will not be able to implement executive orders. So red state California, Pennsylvania, Kentucky is Mitch McConnell's home state, has said they will not be able to implement the executive order. Any of the states in purple are not sure if they can implement the unemployment executive order, and only West Virginia says that it can implement the executive order. So good news Good news, West Virginia. If you live in West Virginia, you might get that $300 additional for unemployment benefits from that state, and then $100 from the federal government, $300 from the state. This question, I'm really asking this question. Wouldn't it be so simple for the state unemployment offices to simply change the 600 to 300? Just simply change from 600 to 300. Make that little switch and it would be all simple. No, it can't. This is why it can't happen, because one of them was a law, right? One of them was a law, which is the federal law of unemployment benefits under the CARES Act, right? The other is an executive order, two different things. And money isn't being printed and borrowed. What's being done is it's being reallocated in the system away from FEMA. Do you see what I'm saying here? So in the original CARES Act, the unemployment assistance at $600 was being basically printed by the federal government and allocated by the federal government. This system is an executive order, which is not that same system, and it's basically asking states to reallocate money from FEMA assistance and then implement it themselves in order to dole it out to the American public and to those people that are unemployed. That's why it's not working. That's why it's not easy to implement. That's why this map looks like this. I mean, this was a stunning, stunning map. I couldn't believe when I saw it this morning. Ohio and South Carolina intend to a limited version of what President Trump wants, but green is the only state, West Virginia, that intends to implement the executive order. All the other purple states, and Rhode Island was added last night, said that they're not sure they can even do it, that they don't have the wherewithal. So that is one piece of this that we thought we would see happen, the unemployment benefits. We thought there is a silver lining in the fact that Congress has gone home. No, not likely to happen. The other piece of this, of course, is payroll taxes, which we'll get to in a second with Steven Mnuchin. But Chuck Schumer didn't waste a moment yesterday. He went to the Senate floor and just bashed Republicans and bashed President Trump for these toothless executive orders.
Rather than trying to break the logjam, as a true presidential leader should, President Trump sits on the sidelines and just issued a bunch of weak and unworkable executive orders.
Weak and unworkable. Now, okay, let's unpack that. Is he being, am I being partisan? Am I being biased by saying they're weak? I agree with him on this. They are weak and they are unworkable. Just look at the states that have said they cannot implement the unemployment benefits part. And then look at the payroll tax piece, which again, employers have said, we're not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole because what you're doing is asking us to punt the football for 4 months, hoping that in 4 months, we will then be able to put this money in place or get these taxes back and pay them. We're not touching it. And Steven Mnuchin tried to answer this yesterday because where is this money going to come from to pay for Social Security and also Medicare? That money from payroll taxes goes to cover those things. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, you can hear it in his voice. He's almost sort of tired of answering this question. And you can tell that he's tired of having to defend this ridiculous executive action. Listen.
The president would like to do a payroll tax cut, so he'll go back to Congress when he wins the election and ask Congress to have this money forgiven and have the Social Security Trust Fund fully topped up so that in no way does this impact Social Security.
Okay. No way this affects Social Security. Okay, we're going to top up the general fund. That's where we're going to get the money from, right? The general fund that we keep hearing about. And President Trump, for his part, went on TV and talked about how next year, when he's reelected, or January when he's in office, that he'll be able to basically, with a stroke of a pen, eliminate those payroll taxes, and then these businesses won't have to worry about it. Okay, so if you're a business owner, are you going to gamble on the fact that he might become reelected and therefore also then sign an executive order? No way. I'm not going to do that if I'm a business owner. No. So I'm not going to touch payroll taxes for employees. No way. What you're asking them to do is to have a bigger paycheck now for 4 months, and then in 4 months when the president's not reelected or doesn't have that power, now I have to pay double the taxes? So now their paycheck will be cut even more? because they'll have to pay it all back. You have to pay it at some point. It's just a suspension of payroll taxes for a few months. Who's going to take advantage of that? So those are the latest bits of back and forth, garbage going on between Democrats and Republicans. But the latest news of this hour, of course, is that they have adjourned fully. They are gone through Labor Day without reaching a stimulus deal. No direct stimulus checks are coming to the American people. Not going to happen. And if it does happen, it's not going to happen until probably late in September.